right, hi everyone, welcome. Thank you so kindly for joining us. Welcome to Green Apple Books on the Park. My name is Car Johnson. I'm the event coordinator for Green Apple, and tonight I'm very happy to welcome Bobby Elliott as we celebrate his debut poetry collection, The Same Man. Let's give a hand for Bobby. He is joined tonight by Michael Dhyne. Let's give Michael a hand. Thank you so much for being here. I know you could be anywhere on a Friday, and I'm glad you chose to be with your beloveds. I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us here in person and also online. Hello, online audience. That's what this little camera guy is for. And I do know we have a couple people joining us, so thank you and hello. We open each of our events with a land acknowledgement, and so I would like to let you know that we are operating on unceded Ramaytush Ohlone land. And we think that acknowledgement, if we are to acknowledge this land, it requires action. And so we encourage you to donate either your time or monetary means to an Indigenous organization each time you hear a land acknowledgement. There are many ways to participate in this project of rematriation, but we have some info at the back desk about the Ramaytush Ohlone Land Trust if you are interested in participating in that way. I have very brief business, and then I will let these two take over. We're going to hear some work from both of them, a little bit of conversation, and then if you're nice, we'll see if you can ask some questions at the end. Very brief business. Now's a good time to silence your cell phones if you have not already. Photo taking. How do we feel?
Feel good about it.
Feel good about it. Affirmative. Photo taking is good, but only good photos. So there you go. Please do check out our full event calendar online at greenapplebooks.com. We have a really great season ahead of us, including the event you are currently attending. Please do, if you are able, buy books. Please do buy books from us here at Green Apple if you are able to and so inclined. If you've been here before, you've certainly heard me say that when you buy books from us, not only do you support us as an independent bookstore, you support the writers who put so much work into making these books, then you get to have a book, which I bet they will sign. Yes. So that's pretty special. If you are able, we always appreciate it. Thank you so kindly. Get one for you and everyone on your block. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the two poets who are joining us tonight. I will do it one right after the other and then let them take over. First, Michael Dhyne is the author of Afterlife, which was selected by Eduardo C. Corral for the 2023 Felix Pollock Prize in Poetry. His work has been supported by the Bread Loaf Writers Conference, Community of Writers, and Virginia Center for the Creative Arts. He received his MFA from the University of Virginia and his MSW from University of California at Berkeley. He is joining us from Oakland, California. Let's give one more hand for Michael Dhyne. And last but most certainly not least, Bobby Elliott is an award-winning poet and teacher. His poems have appeared in or are forthcoming from the Portland Review, Only Poems, Poetry Northwest, Rhino, and elsewhere. He is joining us all the way from Portland, Oregon, where he lives with his wife and sons. His debut collection of poems, The Same Man, was selected by Nate Marshall as the winner of the 2025 Agnes Lynch Sterrett Poetry Prize and is out now from the University of Pittsburgh Press, and it is the reason we are here tonight. So let's give one more hand for Bobby Elliott.
All right, should we do it?
I think we should do it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna read first, and then I'm gonna pass it off to Bobby. But I just want to thank Car. I want to thank all our loved ones for being here. I want to thank Bobby for doing this with me. Bobby wrote a really special book, and I'm always happy to have the chance to celebrate it and to hear you read. So, special treat tonight. Okay. So I'm gonna do something wild and just read some new poems. So I think I'm just gonna dive in.
That sounds great.
Okay. And this one's just called Poem.
So creative.
Alright, poem. Like pieces of night cut from the sky, floating over the huge granite rocks that cradle the river, black butterflies. I was holding you, gliding across the still surface of the green water, thinking of our children's freckles appearing like stars. Most of my life, I'd loved best what I'd lost. Michaela said she could feel in the spaces where a child would someday be her child. There's a form, she said. Alright, this one is called Sounds I Want You to Hear. We woke up to the earth after rain. Wild strawberries beside the porch. The 5-lined skink's bright blue tail. I walked to where I thought the cows would be. The mountains, just sketches of themselves in early fog. M had said, "Do you ever feel your father's presence?" 3 pieces of warm quartz I placed on the sill. The gesture or turn and the dream I follow. I was thinking of sounds I loved and wasn't sure what I heard. There were no cows in the field, just water brushing my ankles. I could hear it shift, then drip, falling down my mother's belly as my father climbed into the bath. The water, I could feel it. I think I'm gonna skip the long one today.
Why?
I don't know.
Read the long one.
Read the long one. Okay.
Okay. More.
Thank you. Okay. So my day job is quite heavy. I work as a grief counselor at a children's hospital, and before that, I volunteered for many years facilitating support groups for grieving kids, and it was pretty wild doing that during the pandemic on Zoom with a bunch of wild kids, just like seeing them all in their own kind of private spaces. And so this poem is inspired by that experience, among other things. This room and everything in it. I've been trying to find the words to describe this most mundane of facts. Our faces lit up on each other's screens, taking turns to speak. When Delilah asks, "What would you give to have your person back?" Silas says, "This room and everything in it." I remind myself not to say, "That's beautiful," but to say what the children say back so they see themselves more clearly. From one room to the other, I hear you moving, listening, near but far, like hushed talk in my parents' bedroom. The light under their door, this light, their bright bones, still gleaming, impossible ash to impossible ash. I'd give the windows and walls, this rhombus of flickering golden light streaming over the bed, shadows of maple leaves at their hour of prayer, recess of empty space. It's how St. Clare attended to the work of God, or so I read, too ill to rise or enter another cathedral, watching and listening for his voice in her room's private glow. I remember drawing on the floor beside children whose parents had died too, careful lines, touching their origins, hands holding hands. I waited, but for what? If I imagined a future after he died, that future was empty. Each opening opened onto an ending. Had I known what to ask for, I'd have asked for a door to walk through and feel changed. You asked if I get sad, listening to the kids talk about death, watching them in their little rooms. I saw your tears move from one eye to the other as you rolled over to face me. When I reached for your hand in front of the canvas, we were closer to the paint than each other. I thought, if there's an afterlife, it's in this gesture of the inside made visible. I could feel the blood moving between us, the crush and sweep of time, gliding our bodies forward. Into what? I didn't see then my mother on all fours in the garden, or my body, as if from above, curled into the earth, but your year-old grief, which had only just opened. And the colors asked, are there places you feel safe? Are there places you feel what's not there? And the stars Christina watched fall as the blood in her father's veins surged. I'd call that love. That energy never goes away, says Finn.
Glad you read that one.
How long have I been reading?
Not long
I've
enough.
lost track of time. Do I have time for 3 more short poems?
Yeah.
Okay. This one's also just called Poem. Trying to bring a little levity for these devastating. Our dreams out of our hands now. Spring, waiting for you outside the fertility clinic, finally comes. Pink blossoms like blood and water. I look into the fold-down mirror, expectant. My freckles, your laugh. What would we call her? We touch her cheek like a window. And then this is a poem for Bobby. Yeah, my therapist helped me through this guided visualization where she helped me find a safe space and place a person in that space who I trust for guidance and comfort. And I pictured Bobby on a bench near the ocean. It's called Inner Advisor. I tell you I feel very sad, and you put your arms around me. Yellow and purple flowers like waves on the green hills, falling down to the water. With you, I don't have to say the hard thing, because you already know. You say, Michael, if what you want from fatherhood is to give love back to the earth, that is what you will do. You will give love back to the earth. And I'm not just imagining you and your boy here in our apartment last fall. How in the morning, Jamie pressed jewels into the door, which for weeks after you left, I could hear falling one by one on the hardwood. Even now, I find them shining in our dust, as if to say, this too can be beautiful, this too can be loved. Alright, and then this last poem is for my pregnant wife, Nicole. Dusk. I follow you down old quarry roads that once were riverbeds, where thousands of years ago glowing blocks of lava tumbled down. All around us, shadows in the dirt, milk thistle, blue matter, even the empty spaces inside us collapsing into the hills. A sudden silence, the light softens like touch. The moon just a sketch through the trees and the gathering dusk. One can begin where they choose, so why not here, past the cattle gate, where the trail turns between the hard brown rocks, half covered in bright red lichen, and bursts into green. For 9 days we waited, and I thought of the 100 cells our baby was, sprawling in the slow thaw that morning, when the embryologist followed her with a little flare of light to show us where she was. Your face beaming as you looked back at me, and her picture, like a crater on the moon's distant face, I held in my pocket. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Michael. Sounds like a second book is on the horizon.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah. It's funny because this is what we always dreamt of, I think, reading together, becoming fathers together. And so it's really special to get to do this with you here. I have this very vivid memory of being in this space in November of 2023 when Michael's book came out, and I brought our then 3-year-old son down here, and he had a meltdown just as things were getting going. So I have a very vivid bodily memory of holding him in my arms as I'm trying to hear these extraordinary poems. So I feel like this is our chance to redo things a little bit together. I'm grateful for that. And thank you so much, Car, for helping make this event possible. You've been so kind and supportive throughout, and it's fun to be here. And thanks everyone for being here. It's really special for me to do this. This is the second event since the book came out, and then I'll be on the East Coast, which I'm looking forward to. But first I gotta read some poems. I'm gonna, something that the book came out last Tuesday, and something that I realized is just I wrote these poems in an incredibly intense time of my life when I was just beginning to kind of reckon with and really think deeply about my relationship with my father as I was becoming a father myself, and the poems reflect that turbulence and intensity. I'm going to read from all 3 sections of the book. I'm going to read for about 4 hours tonight. So I hope you brought a pillow or at least tissues. The first poem I'm going to read is from, it's the first poem in the book, Mondegreen, and Mondegreen is just a word that refers to a misheard song lyric that gives it new and unreliable meaning. Mondegreen. I mistake the sound of a recycling cart hitting the curb for the latch of our gate, and picture him instantly, my father stumbling into the light of the backyard to shoot himself. I've been looking at the fruit trees and the fire pit, the loose board of the old fence in the wind. I've been thinking of how lost you'd have to be to believe you knew everything there was to know about yourself. And now this sound I mistake for my father going through with it. One awful letter in his coat pocket to me, another to my unborn son. School nights. From one couch to another, she used to tell him, pick on someone else tonight, because I'm not going to be your punching bag. The living room erupting in laughter of all things, then muted by tears she was tired of having to shed, while Vanna White glittered in the night sequin gown, and a bank of consonants and vowels waited to be touched. The next poem I'm going to read is a poem that was kind of a gateway to the whole book. I wrote it my last year of graduate school, and another poet told me, you really have something here, and it's something worth writing into more. And so much of the book takes up what it has meant to me to feel responsible for sustaining someone else in the world who's not my own child, but a family member. And this poem is about that. Game plan. He was always after reassurance that he was a good father, and that no, of course not, we didn't want anyone else to take his place. There was never time to hesitate, to waver. His life, it seemed, always in the balance, and his children, us, always the ones to save him, to talk him down, to game plan, when he wasn't in the room. Nothing's changed. When he writes to ask if we're angry with him and if we think he's been a failure, he doesn't want the truth. He wants us to know there's a gun he's been holding to his head, and the only reason he's alive is the two of us. We are meant to feel loved by this, not accused. I'm going to read 3 poems from the middle section of the book, and that's the section of the book where the birth of our son Jamie emerges and is chronicled. And this one's called New Parents, and it stems from the walks we took with our newborn son in our neighborhood, and both my wife and I having the same exact thought without saying it for a little while. New parents. As soon as you're born, we picture ourselves dying, stepping between you and whatever could possibly barrel toward us in the rain. A stolen pickup truck, a wave pausing at its crest and asking for a volunteer. The instinct in the water now, the blood, not that the world cares, or that you, oblivious in your swaddle we've managed to put on backward, need anything but milk. We fantasize about ending up on the news. New parents drown, save infant boy, to avoid imagining this house ever without you. Jamie, we mutter in the mirror. Jamie, we call out in our sleep. I'm going to read a poem called Skin to Skin. My sister's here tonight. My sister's actually in a lot of these poems tonight. She's in a lot of the book, but I tried to read some poems that have her in them in moments. Hope that's okay. Skin to Skin. After nursing, you're handed off to me. Dad, Daddy, Papa, the name we've yet to settle on. And this morning, my skin on yours puts you right to sleep. Or my skin's a decent enough replica to keep you sleeping, milk balming your lips. In the first dream I have about you, I leave the station alone, checking my pockets as if you're a wallet or phone. Your wail in the distance, my heart's 4 alarm system going off. How can I blame you then or now for clinging to your mother's warmth, her unceasing light? This morning, after nursing, she hands you off sleeping to me. Your skin on mine, inconceivable to the city kid I once was. My parents having it out in their bedroom. My sister's soon-to-be jailed boyfriend climbing the fire escape to hers. Howie. This is the poem that gave rise to the title poem, which I'll also read, but this one's called Weekend Getaway. Not ocean or bird or daddy, but Papa, he keeps repeating on the beach. My grandfather's name, now my father's. My son hoping he's just stuck in traffic. Ocean, I say, and point to the tide making and remaking its bed. Ocean, but he wants his grandfather to say it with us, to witness his first wet fistful of sand. Do I wince because I'm jealous, or am I forgiven for going quiet? I stand between him and the wind jutting north. his red raincoat flapping like a weatherman's, his loyalty to each syllable a coincidence, I tell myself, as if I'm unaware of my own love for the same man. I'll read 3 more, all from the last section of the book. Photographs. My sister thinks they're a way for him to live in the past, but I think it's an attempt to rewrite it. Every inch of wall space taken up by my smile and hers, by Jamie's and Maya's and Violet's. Even his siblings make an appearance in the hall, as if their falling out was fiction. We don't come over often. When we do, I'm struck by how sad it is to see myself as a boy, my left front tooth browning in the light. Every dollar I'd saved lifted from the shoebox I didn't think to hide. As my own sun shakes the city I grew up in until snow swirls around it. And I picture my father listening at my door to make sure I was asleep. 2 more. This one's a title poem from the book. It's a slightly longer poem. The same man. He's been good all year when our entrees come out like a reward for reinvention, and he finally says what he's always said, that his life wouldn't be worth living without us, which is another way of saying he'd kill himself, if not for the few hours each week he gets to play hide and seek with my son, who always picks the same spot behind the couch, laughing as my father walks right past him, nailing the part of the duped like he was born to disappoint everyone but his grandchildren, born to spoil them and hold them, to caw like a crow 1 minute and rumble like a vintage yellow motorcycle the next, $45,000 in debt and a new gun in the safe. The same man who mastered the art of making my mother cry and left me a set of his keys so I'd be the one to find him in the bathroom of his 2nd floor walk-up on Main, to search for a pulse and put both hands to his chest, trying to remember how deep to go, how soon to breathe, how often I tried to convince him to stay. Even the night of my wedding, even now, I pitch therapy and a summit with each sibling he's told off. Order a dessert I'm too embarrassed to maul the name of, pointing to it with a smile our waiter almost forgives, and agreeing when my father leans into the candlelight to say, we can tell each other anything, can't we? My mind going to that year in college I stood outside the dorm my new friends were partying in, trying to decipher what I was hearing over the phone. The wind chimes on the back deck going wild, his 2 untrained dogs barking, the chamber opening, the chamber closing, something about why I had to be so far away. I'm going to read the last poem in the book, which I've actually never read aloud before in front of people. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Where we land. Hurt, I've asked him to stop showing up 2 hours early. He tries not to look at me when I open the door and succeeds. If the newborn's down for a nap, it's the toddler he goes to. If the toddler's asleep too, it's our forgotten dog he serenades, asking how her week has been and did you miss me as much as I missed you? In therapy, I'm asked if I felt safe as a child. In my living room, my father's the patron saint of fun, better than I am at make-believe and building whole cities out of the blocks my sister handed down. Sometimes I wonder if he's been letting himself in when I'm at work, looking out from my desk at the leaves waiting like children to be picked up, and fixated on the poem about the dead man float, and the one about my mother as a punchline. Often I find myself stuck on this image of him opening his dresser drawer to show me everything I'd inherit when he was gone, confused I didn't seem excited, and nudging me to pick something I could keep in my room to begin remembering him by. When it's just the two of us, Victoria managing to get both boys in a bath before bed, we don't know what to say or how much space to give. My father searching the photos on the fridge to see if I've added any of him back, while I kneel by another basket of warm clothes and fold them like my mother folded ours, rehearsing what she'd do when she was free. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
Do you have a burning question for me, Michael Dhyne?
I got so many questions.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to ask your sister about Howie. Was that his name?
Yeah.
Reverse
What's he up
DNA.
to?
He's not alive.
Oh my god. Bobby, hey. It's always such a treat to hear you read. And especially that last poem, which I hadn't heard you read before.
Yeah.
I think of The Same Man as such a deeply personal and intimate and courageous book that really claims your experiences. And I know something that we were talking about recently was how a lot of poets will distance themselves from the speakers of their poems. They'll refer to the I as the speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of the books that we love, like Marie House with The Living Room, she pretty much calls that fiction, at least in interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wonder how you think about that, about, writing something so personal, claiming them as your own experiences, and what that means to you.
Yeah. I didn't know that Marie Howe, that she's distanced herself from those poems, which feel to me, incredibly personal. I think there's one level where I totally understand the fear of writing personally and being therefore exposed in some way. That's hard. It's not easy to read these poems, even in front of loved ones. And so I respect and understand that, and at the same time, it just feels so disingenuous to me for me myself to have a relationship with the poems I've written and to say that they're fiction, or that there's a real distance and divide between the speaker and me. The truth is that the speaker is a concentrate of me. It's like the ultimate voice, I think.
Yeah.
And I've worked really hard to get to that place and to write as vulnerably as possible. Because I think that the truth is that those are the poems that I love most. I think that we write generally in pursuit of what we've loved on the page and doing our very best to make it ourselves. And so that, that intensity, the personal nature of so many poems I love have led me to try to make the same commitment on the page, and to not make a distinction, really.
Yeah.
Do you make a distinction?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think we feel largely the same way, but I think there's almost I earned these experiences,
Mm-hmm.
I want to claim them as my own.
Yeah.
And I don't I don't want to distance themselves from me. And I think on some levels, like the poems that I've written and the book that I wrote, moved toward healing in a way that felt really meaningful to me.
Yeah.
And your book kind of resists that in a lot of ways, which I find really, brave and difficult, but also just a reflection of the reality of your life and your relationships.
Yeah, I think the book in so many ways is not interested in clean or neat endings, or clean or neat arcs, and on one level, to go back to that first question, it's because it reflected my experience. Right? It would not have rang true if that book ended in a way that felt profoundly uplifting or kind of victorious, if that makes sense. I mean, I think that there are many ways to read the arc of the book and what it says or is trying to say, but I think you'd have a hard time believing that or articulating that it's certainly this or certainly that. And again, that just reflected the nature of my life up until that moment that the poems were finished. Something that is on my mind that I wanted to ask you is, I know that something you've thought about is writing about people you work with, right?
Yeah.
And that like reality that you don't necessarily get a chance to ask if they can be in your poems.
Yeah.
And now you're also writing toward fatherhood and writing about a future that you can't possibly receive consent to kind of write about. And so I wonder how you're thinking about that right now, because the work is so clearly refusing to turn back from that at the same time.
That's a good question that I'm trying not to think about right now. I worry about telling other people's stories, and giving that, honoring that and what it deserves, and like recognizing that often these aren't my stories to tell. And I think that's where, like, if ever, if anything, like some fictionalizing might come into my work, of like, obviously I don't want to use people's real names.
Sure.
I have to think about, think about like honoring someone's experience and thinking about, the beautiful things maybe a child said, like in that poem, I give this room and everything in it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not so much like my experience of interacting with this person or that relationship, but it's like, what does that say about grief and childhood, and finding a place for the truth of that to live in a poem that isn't just about me, which is terrifying. I've only ever written about me and my family and my loved ones, so it's scary to take on the world in poems. This is like maybe kind of a weird question to ask, and people often bristle at this, but
wait for the bristling. I'm ready to bristle, Michael.
Do you think writing is therapeutic?
It's funny. I really catastrophized a fair amount about this book being in the world. My sister's really nodding right now. And kind of the consequences of it, the ramifications of it, what it would mean for my relationships, especially with my father. And I will say that having the book in the world has been therapeutic on two levels. One, it's that there's this sense that I've been finally heard. And then two, the way that my father ultimately met this work was so much more loving and thoughtful and invested than I sometimes feared. And that has felt therapeutic to me. What they've been able to bring about for us in our relationship, and the conversations they've started to engender, that has felt, I think, moving, important, and like progress. And it wouldn't exist without the poems.
Yeah.
And I do think, when I sit down to write poems, especially when I finish one, it can feel a lot like it does leaving a therapist's office,
Yeah.
in so many different ways.
Yeah.
But those are the two ways when I think about the book and its impact right now on me and the poems within it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find so much that, the act of writing is just it's an act of processing.
Yeah,
it's
sure,
an act of,
sure.
Of trying to communicate.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is also my experience of therapy,
right?
And
right.
of working through things, and it's intense, it's intimate, and then if you're lucky, or you have talent, you end up with something like this, which is validating of your experiences, and something you can share with other people that, I imagine for you is going to unlock doors for many people to explore what they need to explore, go where they need to go. And it's a beautiful thing.
Thanks, Michael. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Young lady in the front.
So you didn't read that beautiful love poem to Victoria with the sounds. But hearing Michael read his new poem with the sounds, I was like,
he stole a
that's
line.
a Bobby Elliott ripoff.
Yeah.
Don't even.
Because I know you wrote that in Virginia, so he's heard it before. But it got me thinking, what is the relationship to sound and listening and love in your poems? And do you think Michael should say after Bobby Elliott?
I can answer that question. Absolutely. For the new book as a whole. Something that I think about a lot with parenting is that I find myself surrounded by these luminous things our children say, and I try to listen and record them as much as I can because they feel like such a gift and a gateway into poems themselves. So I find that I'm really absorbing their verbal lives, and that is making its way into my poems. And I think it's, I was talking to someone the other day, just that I when I'm writing my poems, I'm constantly reciting them. And so it's very much an experience where I'm invested in how it sounds and in a particular fluidity of sound. And my ear ends up being really essential and important. If anything sounds off, then I know I need to go back and figure out what's going on syntactically, verbally. And so in a lot of ways, I think I'm like very wed to sound, and that it's a gateway in so many different ways for me. What about you, Michael?
He's a sound poet.
How do I think about sound?
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question? Sound and love and listening.
Yes.
Yeah. My job is really to listen.
Right.
I spend my whole day listening to people, and, that feels like a sacred thing to me, to be able to witness what people have to say and validate their experiences. And I think a lot of the time when I'm writing, I'm thinking about how I can create a space where there's room for other people, even when it's about something deeply personal. And I think I'm paying a little more attention to sound in my work in ways I haven't before. That's not the question, but I'm thinking a little bit about sound and letting go of some of the autobiography of my poems that I felt writing a first book, of being like, this is my story about grief and my childhood, and I really need people to hear this. And now that that's kind of out there, there's a freedom to be a little wilder and not as beholden to my personal experiences. Yeah. I think a lot of that comes from listening.
Mm-hmm. Any questions? Ginevra?
What do you envision when you think of your boys reading this in their adult life?
Something that's unsettling is I probably won't get to choose when they read it, right? And so, and given that they are already like very invested in stories and books and reading, and they're very curious about my poems and hearing them, I imagine that our oldest son will, encounter the poems again in a way that's not necessarily scripted or planned. And so I think what I have thought about is, as that feels like it's even remotely a possibility, to begin talking to him about what Daddy's poems are about. And something in life that's been really important, and something that I hope is sustained beyond the poems, is that I want our children to have their own relationships with their family members, and I don't want, to the extent that it's possible, I don't want mine to color or influence them. And I think when they encounter the book, I think that really raises the possibility that it might. And I don't know if there's any good answer around or solution to that, beyond hopefully creating a space where they can talk about it, and process what it means and feels to them. And then there's also, the reality that it will be what it is to them, regardless of the framing, regardless of the context and the conversations, in ways that are scary and I think unavoidable.
I imagine it'll be a deeper knowing of you
Yeah.
as the primary, as opposed to a perception of your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Ginevra. Yeah, because I think I spend a lot of energy thinking about what it means for them and my dad, right? But the truth is that, I long for them to have a deeper knowing, like you're saying, of me as a person, as their father. And there's so much in the book too. That's a document, a living one of the kind of profound and deeply shaping bliss of being a parent, and I want them to know that. And I think the poems are hopefully a gateway to that one day. Yeah.
Maybe you should read one of those poems.
Maybe I'll read a poem to close. Does that sound okay, Ben?
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Well, first I just want to say congratulations, the second event.
Yeah, thanks.
It's a beautiful moment, and just congratulations on your book. That's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your experience of bringing the book into the world, and just like this moment for you, take or leave Rosebud Thorn as a frame, just thinking about all the different, wonderful parts and also difficult parts.
Yeah.
Just taking a moment to reflect on, this moment in time, getting the book to where it is, and just be curious to hear how that's been for you so far.
Yeah, it feels like this kind of dawning of a new phase in my life, and that is scary and really exhilarating and exciting for me. And I've spent a lot of time. I don't know if you know the poet Matt Neenow, but he was telling me the other week as the book came out, and he said, the language we sometimes use around books is it's a dream come true. And he was like, try to think about all the work you've done to make this possible, and acknowledge that that this book is in the world because you wrote these poems and you crafted this whole. And so that's been really meaningful for me to hear, as much as it is also a dream come true, as much as this is also exactly what I want my life to consist of. And I find that, all that I've, the amount of people I've heard from who've read the book and say, I read it in one sitting, I couldn't put it down. That has been such a gift and such a surprise to me, especially because the poems are very heavy and very intense at times. And, you know, I think about this phase of my life as being a deeper engagement with the thing that I love most in the world, which is writing poems. And I'm excited for all the different things I'm doing, whether it's a bookstore reading or a university event where I'm meeting with students and talking about writing poems, or this book itself. And that all is the kind of thing I just want my life to be about ultimately. And I think what I said at the very beginning, that I wrote these poems at an extremely intense moment in my life. And I think that I'm in a different moment in my life. And so sharing them, reading them aloud, is in some ways kind of a split screen experience. It's a strange experience because I'm not in this moment anymore. Broadly speaking, things have felt like they've settled in ways that the poems don't know yet. Yeah.
That's really interesting. I don't know if you've articulated that before, but it feels a bit like a revelation.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
That, I don't know, you've not moved past, but the poems still know what they know, and you know more than they do right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks for that question, Ben. Should I read a poem just to close it out?
So,
and was there a poem you were thinking of?
I was thinking of one of the, like What We See Together, or Writing Room.
Yeah. I'm going to read What We See Together. Thanks again for being here. What we see together. Always the trees, always the crows and the power lines dripping like an old shower head. Cats on occasion, one-eared, tagless, roses and toddlers breaking out into a sprint. The minister and his wife arriving hand in hand, the church perennially in need of a new coat. Yards abandoned and yards resplendent, both of us drawn like a bath to the statue of St. Francis. Palms of rain, palms of ash, palms the squirrels leap to and leave trembling like a glass. The light at the base of the maple, the painter in her studio, unknown and painting, the plane making you crane your neck in the stroller, the sunflower, the mailman, the house with its fading picture of a missing child in the window, the final block home, our overgrown plum trees always with more fruit, our front door and the woman who brought you into this world hour by seasick hour, on the other side of it, always waiting, always what makes you smile before the door even opens. Thank you.
Will you have one more hand for Bobby Elliott?